Paul. I'm just going to move the speaker closer. Hey, thanks, Paul, and thanks for running that meeting. So we always use the AGM as a way of telling a bit of an alternative view on the company rather than just the hard numbers, and that's kind of certainly the way I'm going to run this presentation today. I'm going to kind of jump around some of the subjects which we've raised through the year to make sure that everyone's aware that we don't say stuff and then forget it. We actually do track it, and we do make sure that everything we say, we actually go on and do. So. With that then, let's talk a bit about breast cancer. Breast cancer continues to rise globally. 500,000 women are going to die, very sadly, of it this year. We are utterly convinced early detection is critical and breast cancer screening works, but there's ways to optimise it. We're utterly convinced that our science and products are helping optimise and help women almost daily now across the world, but there's still plenty to do, and we're going to talk around some of that today. So, the high-level numbers there are all good, but breast cancer is not just statistics. Many of you in this room have been touched by breast cancer, and many of you have talked to me about it. These are some of the emails I've been receiving over the last year or so from people that used to work for us and then left, or people that nearly joined us but then didn't, who have then gone on to develop breast cancer. Right the way through to people like Shelley Leal and Nancy Capello actually died of breast cancer this year. So the statistics, but then there's the real hard reality of this impacting on everyone that we know and people on the line know each and every day. So we are still very, very passionate around helping those women and helping save families from breast cancer. So earlier this year we kind of changed the mission of the company to lead the world in the early detection of breast cancer by providing a complete set of digital health services, rather than just density or quality. We want a complete set. But also then we wanted to start accumulating all the data from all those products into the cloud to really try and get into the next generation of predictive risk healthcare, and aiming to really ultimately get to a point of prevention. Being able to say, Mrs. Smith, you're at such high risk of breast cancer, we are going to get you on certain drugs, or we're going to screen you every year. So really, we as a company and me personally, we're really kind of now focusing on this mission, and every day being driven towards that ultimate goal of prevention rather than even early detection, although obviously that is some way away. As part of that then, we now offer, with the acquisition of MRS, we now offer a complete multi-vendor, very well integrated, validated product set. That really is our competitive edge. If you look around at what our competitors are trying to do, competitors are trying to sell, say, a density product, but then they don't have the quality product, or they don't have the breast cancer risk product. We now have the full, complete, end-to-end solution. So a woman walks in the door of a breast imaging clinic, the Aspirin breast product, which is the one we acquired from MRS, starts tracking her. She has the x-rays done. It's Volpara Live, our real-time quality control product, and Volpara Density, which is helping the technologist decide, is the image good enough to send her home? It's the density score there, which is helping the technologist talk to her or not about density. Right the way through here then to the radiologist looking at those images, using our density scorecard to judge what the best next screening is for that woman, using tools such as the computer aided detection tool we've just licensed in ScreenPoint, Transpara, to help them guide their detection. Right the way through then to now with MRS, we can offer a risk assessment to these women so they can walk out the door knowing if they're high risk, low risk or medium risk, and what their next pathway is. And of course, right across the top then we've got Volpara Enterprise, collating all the data and really helping ensure high quality assurance, compliance to all the regulatory requirements, but also making sure your breast imaging clinics are very productive. So we're now in a very, very strong position in the US in particular, and increasingly globally. I'm just going to run through now each of these products and just talk a little bit about it and just update you on where we are with each of them individually. And before talking about the integration with MRS and going around each of the geographies as well. So with that then. So, breast density is our lead product. We are clinical leaders in this globally, over 300 publications. When we listed 3 years ago, this was our main product. As per our ASX announcements then, the FDA is moving towards a position now of mandating breast density be told to all women in the US. That's going to be a huge moment, we believe, for women in the US, but women globally. Because it's going to be very hard for Australia, New Zealand and other people to ignore what the FDA is doing. So that's going to be also then obviously a big commercial push for us when that comes out. The FDA has taken comments from a lot of people. They're now processing those comments, and towards the end of this year we anticipate they'll come out with their final ruling and final timing on that. Equally importantly to us is the big DENSE project over in the Netherlands. This is a 10-year randomized controlled trial of a breast density-based screening protocol. We know the results, or at least we know the early results. They were announced earlier in Vienna this year. They're very positive around doing something additional on women with breast density. That has now been submitted to a major journal, and we're waiting for the review process to complete before that comes out. This is critical to us commercially globally because population screening programs do not change what they do without very firm evidence and without randomized controlled trials. This is the randomized controlled trial, which we believe will really have significant ramifications in Australia, New Zealand and right across Europe. That's kind of where we are on density. I'm just going to talk a bit about live because, again, we've talked around this over the year. We launched this at RSNA, the big trade show in Chicago, in December last year. We had our first sales. We now have our first installs of Volpara Live. The aim with Live is the X-rays are taken within 1 minute. It flags up to the woman and to the technologist. This is a good image. You can send a woman home, or this is a bad image. Why don't you retake an image while she's here? Because it's a disaster for everyone. If the woman goes home, you have to call her back, because as soon as you do that, the woman thinks I've got breast cancer, even though it could just be a bad image, and the site loses money. So it's critical to reduce that number of technical recalls. The installs are out there now. We've got plenty of these now shipping, and we're starting to get very positive feedback. This is a filming done at Derry in New Hampshire on the east coast of the US, and some excellent case studies starting to come in. In this case here, the radiologist sat down, looked at the images, noticed the image quality wasn't perfect, but then realised the tech had already retaken one because Volpara had told the tech to do so. So we get some outstanding stories coming through. If you start to follow us on social media, you're going to see more and more of these case studies coming out. Let's talk a bit about Volpara Enterprise. So this is the big quality control package which helps deal with the FDA requirements on quality control and equip and so on. We launched this 3 years ago. We've been through several versions of this, and we're changing it now almost as we speak, because we're really going into the whole hang of the cloud and updating it as per customer requirements. We're starting to get some outstanding feedback again on this. Robin's shown this here. You use it to drastically reduce the amount of time he prepares for audits. Right the way through to Swedish. This is a huge site in Seattle. Swedish is particularly important because it's part of the Providence Integrated Delivery Network. So there's 100 hospitals in the chain. Providence is the lead one, and they're now seeing success almost on a daily basis by using Enterprise to improve quality across the whole enterprise. We're now seeing that pay off, and we've now got 4 other clinics in the IDN have now signed up to Volpara. And that's been one of our long-term strategies, hit these IDNs, target the luminaries, and then move down the chain. Again, we don't talk a lot about this during the year, but we are a very IP-orientated company. The reason we were in Wellington was because the IP lawyers in Wellington when we started were outstanding. We've now got 50 granted patents and 75 patent applications. Those patents are supported by copyright, trademark and so on. And it's very pleasing to us that those patents now are increasingly cited by others patenting in this field, which really shows that the patents that we're filing are really increasing in value and importance every single day now. So you're going to see us talk more about IP this coming year because it's becoming more and more critical, and our position is getting stronger and stronger by the day. So let's sort of talk a bit about MRS. So we acquired MRS in June this year. MRS is a company that we've known for 10, 15 years. That's one we've been tracking for a long time. We looked at buying them a few years ago, but it just simply wasn't the right time to do it. And MRS is critical to our data strategy. So we have the images, MRS has all the patient information, and pulling that all together puts us into an incredibly strong position. These pictures show the first show we did, AHRA, which is Radiology Administrators over in Denver, earlier this year, a couple of months ago. The customer reception to a combined company has been outstandingly positive. And we are getting almost daily now what the Volpara sales team, or the old Volpara sales team, is managing to call MRS into certain deals, and we are managing to mine the MRS data sets for ideal Volpara customers. So not only are we building brand new compelling products, not only are we getting new data, but we're getting a huge amount of cross-selling opportunities being generated on a day-by-day basis. So I'm just going to touch on this. So Aspen Breast is the main MRS product. There's two components of it. One is core practice management software, which is very complementary to Volpara. And the other one then is the cancer risk assessment, being able to say to women, you're high risk or low risk. MRS has got that built in, and that was one of the big reasons for Volpara seeking to buy MRS in the first place. Happy to say then that the data is starting to flow between the two systems. And at RSNA in Chicago, we're going to be showing very integrated solutions with all that data starting to flow up jointly into the cloud for our product development teams to start to investigate, start to try and find new value and new products in. So this is now the combined Volpara and MRS installation base across the US. It's around 25% now of the US market, which is an incredible position for us to be in. This is just a sample of some of the kind of combined data sets or combined customers. MD Anderson, MSK, huge customers, very luminary customers that we can now look to. And MSK, for example, is one of the ones where they are now looking at Volpara MRS integrated solutions. But MRS brought in also then a lot of the military, DoD, and the veteran hospitals as well. And then big organisations like Kaiser Permanente. So combined, we've got all the luminaries and we've got some of these other big institutes now behind us, as well as some big, strong Australian ones as well, which we'll touch on again in a minute. Phase one of the integration was to the 1st of August, and that was really around just doing the essential stuff, the finances and so on. We're now into phase 2 of the integration. Mark Morris, the former CEO, is now Senior Vice President, Customer Success. The marketing finance teams are fully integrated, and now we're working on HR, sales, and then we're going to work on the support and service teams and working through how to merge them into one organisation. So let's just kind of do some geography review. Again, we don't touch on this a lot during the year. New Zealand, with all this, thanks to Paul Clancy, Anton and others, we've now basically covered off all the private sites around Auckland and Palmerston North. We still have some work to do down here in Wellington. If you go onto this link here, you'll find a fantastic talk by Monica, all about breast density and its importance to New Zealand women. And there'll be a TEDx talk as well going live on our website pretty soon if you want to hear the story around breast density in more depth. We are making huge progress, again, thanks to Kylie, Paul, Anton and others over in Australia. Almost every single clinic now in Adelaide generates a Volpara density score. In Brisbane, we've got Wesley Clinic, in Sydney, Alfred, and several sites now around Melbourne, Perth and so on. And we're well into the IMED rollout. We are still doing these big trials with state programs. So we have our first public state program was here in Wellington using Enterprise. We have a couple of public ones now in Italy using Enterprise, and we're working hard now on transitioning these trials across into paying customers. Just looking around Asia, these are our distributors around Asia. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Suffice to say that we have an outstanding group of distributors around Asia, and we're getting all the luminaries around Asia. All these countries are paranoid at the moment because breast cancer is going through the roof, and they're seeking to understand it, and they're using our software to help understand it and to start initialising breast cancer screening programs. So we're very bullish around Asia, but it's critical to go through this pathway of luminaries, adapt the product a bit for Asia, and then into the public screening programs over there. Over in Europe then, Europe, as you know, we've talked around the big dense trial in the Netherlands, the PROCAS trial. UK does 2 million women a year. The PROCAS trial around Manchester, the PROCAS 2 trial, is now into phase 2 of that. They're recruiting 8,000 women. That will run to the end now of 2020. That project is going well, and obviously it's a huge commercial opportunity at the end of that. We continue to publish and do lots of work with the Norwegians, and the Netherlands. Then we're just waiting for the results to come out. But then I'm just going to make a note to Italy as well. We have a sales guy in Italy who's doing an outstanding job in putting enterprise into more and more sites there and building up a solid base of Volpara Density and Volpara Enterprise users. Europe continues to be challenging though. That it has the new privacy regulations, it has Brexit, it has the new EU medical device regulations coming in, and so on. So there's a lot of environmental challenges around Europe, and they're all public screening programs as well, which means they need those randomised control trials before they'll change, which again is why DENS is so important to us. So it's kind of, I've spun through there the products and the geography, and we'll take questions at the end. I'm just going to talk a bit about lung cancer. Our focus is breast. It has been breast, but with MRS now we have a footprint into lung as well. It's a massive cause of death in the US. People know the risk factors, smoking in particular. Lung cancer screening using CT does save lives, is proven to save lives. It is taking off now in the US and it is heavily reimbursed. The compliance rates are quite low at the moment, so around 2% of people that qualify for screening actually attend. That's because the GPs and referring doctors are still struggling to understand what the screening program actually is. But we are certainly bullish again on lung. We're not going to walk away from lung, and we're planning out now how to really expand our footprint into lung, ready for some more focused time and using our AI skills into lung imaging further down the road. So you are going to see us talk around lung this year, but breast remains our big focus. Paul touched on this earlier. We've now got an expanded executive team. Simon and Catherine are both here. Simon's joined as COO, running engineering, quality and regulatory from a big background in technology consulting at PwC and running international teams. Catherine comes down from Orion Healthcare up in Auckland, very used to global companies, global healthcare companies, and it's great to have those two on board. And obviously Mark Morris has been outstanding to work with, and he's going to be outstanding in his senior vice president role of customer success. I think fair to say, Craig and I have interacted a lot now with the MRS people, and it's been a joy to work with them, and the cultures are very, very similar. So it's all going very well. So let's just talk about the combined entity. Again, we put these out at the end of Q1. We're up at ARR now, an annual recurring revenue of just over 14.5 million. We are well on track for the target for the year. We have that 27% or 25% footprint now into the US market. But obviously our job now is to increase the ARPU from each of those sites by going in and upselling Volpara or upselling the MRS software. We are seeing very low levels of churn. The gross margins are high, which means it's very scalable. We've got good cash in the bank, obviously, from the deal with just from the capital raise earlier this year. But then critically as well, we're starting to get all the data flowing up to the cloud, that new wave of product development. So we're very well positioned for the short term, medium term, and the long term. It's all building up nicely into RSNA, which is the huge show in Chicago. And the several companies on the ASX, like Pro Medicus, this is their big show as well. 55,000 attendees. Is the World Cup of Radiology. We are going to have two booths, MRS and the Volpara one. Both very much co-branded, and we're going to be demonstrating very integrated products at this show. Again, as you come up towards the show and during the show, if you watch our social media channels, you're going to see us putting photos out on there of how things are progressing. Even though we've done the capital raise, I think it's important for everyone to know investor relations remains a very key focus for us. Thank you to Buck and over the last year or two, working closely, in particular Cayenne, working very closely with us with an excellent investor relations program. We have a huge amount of activity coming up early September right around Australia. We are going to have an office opening soon. We're moving just down the road here in Wellington, and everyone again is invited to come to office opening, come in, talk to people, get product demos and so on to really understand what we do. We are going to do an international one, so we are going to have a day in Singapore, UK. We've got a couple of very big shows coming up and more shows in Australia and Sydney. So next few months we're going to see a huge amount of investor relations. Plus, we're still waiting for the FDA and the DENTS results to come out. So we've got an exciting few months ahead of us. Last slide now, I just want to thank, it's been 10 years since we started Volpara, or Matakina as it was originally. You can't build a company over 10 years to get to a market share that we have without an outstanding group of people sitting behind us. That includes people like Sir John Hood, who was one of the early chairmen and who helped bring us investors, Roger Allen, who really chaired us through and then took us on to the ASX. Some of the recent directors, but the staff along the way as well. From the engineers here in Wellington, the scientists right around the world, including some of the founders like Nico Carstmeyer and Martin Yaff and Professor Sir Mike Brady, through to people like Gareth at the back and dealing with information security, which is becoming critical to us. Craig in his role as CFO was outstanding during the acquisition and so on. So it's a big thank you really to all the staff that have been with us through that time and really helped us to build a very substantial company with this big market share and a huge amount of momentum going forwards. But also it's a thank you to you, the investors, the retail people, plus the institutes and people like Morgans and Bell Potter have been outstanding in helping us during the year. We recognise that you're trusting us with that money, and we're doing our best to optimise shareholder value. And so thank you for the support previously and ongoing.